Community Services Financial Assistance Grants Subcommittee meeting this morning. This is being held based on your direction at council meeting to have a discussion about how we modify the structure of this program this year in light of COVID-19 and the recovery efforts and the financial situation of the city and the nonprofits and the community at this time. So I think what we'll start with is Victor has done some research. He'll provide a little bit of background on the program and the research he's done since the council meeting. And then we'll turn the time over to the two of you to discuss how you want to move forward. Victor.
Great. Thanks, Matthew. So based on the feedback from the council meeting, I reached out to the organizations that were mentioned, mainly ALAS, Abundant Grace, and Coastside Hope. And the main question I recall from the council meeting was if they were to be provided some sort of funding through CSFA, would it be better to fund them through the Coastside Crisis Fund or directly to organizations? And the overwhelming response from all of them was that there seem to be some restrictions with the funding that goes through the Coastside Crisis Fund. And so if the point of this is to have the funding go towards some sort of COVID relief, like ALAS is doing a lot of work right now with their mask making, or they're getting food donations for their Saturday food distributions from Trader Joe's, but they're also supplementing some of that with their own funds. So they'd rather use funds for stuff like that, or continuing the mental health program. Abundant Grace, I guess, gets a portion of CCF funds, so it would be better for them to have the funding go directly to them. And Coastside Hope, too, it would go straight to the same program they applied for every single year, which is their Critical Needs Fund. So it seems like any sort of funding that would go to these organizations would be better to have it go directly to them as a CSFA grant, as opposed to go through CCF. And then Senior Coastsiders, they weren't a part of the CCF, so funding for them would have gone directly to them anyway. I did receive a call, actually, from Sunrisus, and I know that, I don't remember who exactly had mentioned that. They just wanted to check in and see what funding might be like for next year. And they did mention that they are in need of funding. I'm not sure if it would come from this or from someplace else, but a lot of their funds right now are going towards personal protective equipment for any sort of work they do. So that's really been a big cost burden for them. So that's just another organization I heard from, to consider. But overall, that was the majority of the conversation. They were all very grateful to be considered. They are doing a lot of work. So ultimately, it's up to you, Debbie, and Robert to decide how funding is allocated.
Great. Debbie, I have a list of some of the stuff that we were had talked about in the past, and notes from the past meeting. So here's what we're proposing in terms of this grant program. So again, focusing on the organizations, pretty much you mentioned, there was one other one that I'll mention also. And with a focus on organizations that are really providing basic needs in this COVID crisis. So the breakdown that we were looking at, which works out anyway, pretty much to get folks this money directly by organization, would be an increasing actually everybody's past donation. So it'd be $30,000 to Abundant Grace, $30,000 to Coastside Hope. So in the case of Abundant Grace, we're doubling it where it was $15,000 before.
Yeah.
Coastside Hope, $30,000, so increasing from $25,000 to $30,000. ALAS also $30,000, increasing from $25,000 to $30,000. But with an extra, because we felt the need for mental health services is so strong and not really covered by any other group and especially that they provide it to children, which makes it even more unique, families and children. And in so many of our council meetings, we've had, some young people from leadership group come and talk to us, and, it really became quite apparent that there was quite a need out there. That's only gotten worse. I mean, it was already bad before this. The need has only been exacerbated. So for Alice, we, in addition to the 30,000, which is an increase from their prior 25,000, we want to add another extra 20,000 for Alice, again, earmarked for mental health services. So that just for those three organizations, that's a total of 110,000 so far. Then for Sonrisas, we wanted to double their prior 10,000 to 20,000. And again, as far as I'm understanding, there's a lot of health and medical facilities, smaller groups that are now going through this process of how they can open their offices and consulting with the county and other organizations that have any kind of oversight to figure that out. So I imagine they are probably in that process, which includes, of course, getting all the right PPE equipment and stuff. So 20,000 to Sonrisas, which brings us to 130. Then senior co-siders, also 30,000. Now, their past donation was 10,000, but that was limited mostly to the home improvement program. But now that they are considerably ramped up to deliver food and meals to seniors, we decided that organization also would lift up to 30. That's 160,000. And then the Boys and Girls Club, that came up in our conversations because apparently, as many people know, all the athletic programs were already being canceled over at Cunha by the school district because they were short of funds. Our understanding is that the Boys and Girls Club will start offering some as things start to open up. I don't know what that's going to look like yet, but it would be paid for services to offer some sort of sports type activities. So we wanted to give them 15,000 in anticipation of that coming around by next year, hopefully, or sooner, and applying that to those who can't afford to pay for whatever sport services. And then as they create that, we can up that later to make sure that those families that might not be able to afford the fees for that can afford that. So that we decided last year they had 7,500 for scholarships. So we wanted to up that to 15,000. And then we could work it out with them. When are they ready for that? Will they be ready? We'll just stay in communication with them and see if they can spend that. So that's what we had for that. Debbie, does that connect with everything that you remember that we had done?
Yeah, although I was thinking it might be good to give Boys and Girls Club more. I was thinking like another 10 grand.
Yeah, I just thought there was nothing in place yet that we know that they have actually established. So,
Right.
The amount doesn't matter. I just want to see that they got something in place and they feel they, can move forward.
I'm thinking though that there's probably,
equipment that they'll need also and things like that.
Many needs at Boys and Girls Club. I mean,
Yeah.
the need is going to be like huge. So I'm thinking, how can you use 25 grand?
Right.
Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah. So great. Why don't we up that to 25, which would mean so far we have 185. And this is compared to the 150 from last year. So now I have 185 there. Then, that would be for the grant program. Mm-hmm. Now, there's other things that we'll discuss as a council. It came up again in some conversations about, but right now we're just focusing on the grant, right? So should we just leave it at that? Okay. Any thoughts from staff of how that breakdown looks in terms of aligning with what you've heard from our council meetings and everything else in the communication with the other organizations there?
So it's 185 total, so about 35,000 more than last year. Yeah, this seems to be kind of what the conversation was at the last meeting.
Yeah.
I think this covers most of the social services programs that we've been funding or supporting. There's two that are not included from a social services standpoint. The Coastside Adult Day Health Center, they've been working with seniors to prevent emergency room visits, and they got $10,000 last year. And then St. Vincent de Paul had a workforce rental assistance program that we funded at $10,000. Now that's one that I think as we talk about using some of the housing fund money to develop a program, that's where that could probably be directed.
Yes. Yeah, that's why I didn't address that at this time.
Yeah.
And then, so what about, Coastside Adult Day Health Center? Have we been in touch with them to see what they're doing up to right now? Or
I had not reached out to them because they were not mentioned at the last council meeting, but I can.
Okay.
I would be willing to give 15,000.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, bringing it up to 200 total. Yeah. So, but let's make sure. See if they've combined with some other group or whatever, you know what I mean? Just let's see if they're still independently functioning or how they're working to get those services.
We do know that they met, not only did they achieve 100% of their objectives for their grant last year, they actually tripled the amount of grants they provided. So they leveraged our funds with other funds to really expand the program. So we can definitely say that what they've been doing with our funding has been very successful. And one of the things they mentioned is that they served 87 clients last year through this program, and hospitalizations occurred in less than 6% of those clients. So it seems to be a really great preventative program for the seniors, and thinking about where we're at with COVID and all that, it just seems like a great fit for what you're trying to accomplish here.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure everyone on council, if they're continuing to do their service and having that kind of success rate, would get more money. Just want to make sure that they're still operating independently, and because it's very obviously customized to the coast, and that's where we really wanted to focus as much money as possible. And keeping anyone out of an emergency room right now is just let them tell us what they need and we'll figure it out.
So I have a quick question from the comments. So all us, we're talking about 30,000 for, and kind of maybe taking a step back, all the amounts we've talked about, we only got really specific on Boys and Girls Club for the scholarships and the 20,000 for all us for mental health services. All the rest of the amounts, it sounds like what we would do is we would reach out to the nonprofits after this meeting, tell them this is what is being proposed. How would you use the money, and kind of develop a very quick scope of work with each one of them, focusing on COVID relief. Is that your understanding?
Well, I would be willing actually to take a more general approach. You know, in an emergency, you want as much flexibility with your funding as possible.
Yeah.
So I'd be willing to not be too tight with the restrictions on the use of funding.
Yeah. And I think we can get a pretty general description of what they would use the funds for from each organization, with a thought that they could be flexible with it.
And maybe a really soft quarterly update from each of the groups. Just, hey, can you let us know? We don't need, audited statements. It's just, how have you been using the money? What are some of the successes you're seeing with the use of this money? And then at the end of the year, we'll do a pretty robust report with specifics and details.
I mean, I think generally the public likes to know something. Yeah.
Yeah. We have to be accountable. We don't want them to just like, we don't want them using it for, other than like masks and PPE and stuff. We don't want them like buying computers or using it to travel or, so we need to set some restrictions. Mm-hmm. It has to be tied to service delivery.
Yeah.
As opposed to staff salaries, travel, overhead, that sort of thing.
Right.
So the report at the end, it's like, what did they achieve in terms of service delivery? Who served? How many served? What? That sort of thing.
And it's great to know that some are getting matching grants. So we'd love to know that. It's also, it serves a few extra functions too. If the public knows, for example, that some places are getting matching grants, basically we're publicizing where we're, trying to put money in help. It also gives the public more sense, oh, wow, okay, this group has been sanctioned. We've done our due diligence in figuring out which groups we want to work with, and public may then want to give more money or know some other programs and help us out. If they want to donate money, some folks are going, to Zuckerberg, Zuckerberg Foundation for some of the other programs. So yeah, that would be.
So we want them to leverage other funds if possible. And at the end of it, if they can report how they leveraged multiple funding sources, that would be good.
Great. Yes, and just to let the public know, this is the grant program. There are other, there is other help that we're looking at. In other ways for the community. There's been a lot of questions about, but again, we're looking for things as much as possible, whatever's going on with county funds, other funds, we really want to customize to the coast side. And so we're looking at those things separately. It also has given us a chance where I know staff is looking at what some other cities are doing, whether it's for rental assistance, for small business assistance. And so we wanted to really go out and find out what's really working well, how they have done things, how they might do it a little bit differently, so we can really benchmark and, again, figure out where. And again, we're really learning what the need is out there now, even more so. So more on the way. Great.
Sounds good.
All right. I think we've got good direction. I expect we'll probably bring this back then at the June 16th meeting with all the details, and it'll be included in the recommended budget for full council approval. And hopefully we can get these funds distributed first of the fiscal year.
Sounds good. And
I think it'd be really important to get the money out as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
Right. Let's just get that money out there.
Well, and I think as you've described, keeping it more simple, the use of the funds, just kind of list what they can't use it for, then we're not going back and forth on scope of work, and they can really just get rolling, and we can get the contract signed and distributed. So great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate all the work you've done.
Jessica, any public comment?
No, there are none. So
okay.
You guys are finished. You can go ahead and wrap up.
Great.
Sounds great. All right.
Thanks for all your hard work, everybody, and Jessica for organizing the meeting.
No problem.
All right. Good.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good weekend.
All right. Yeah.
Have a good weekend next week.
Bye.
All right. Take care, everybody.